internet or go quiet, put your volume down on your computer. But we are live from everywhere. So hello, this is Driving Females again. I'm Tara.
I am Sarah, and I'm so excited. I'm hoping we can hear her when we say hello, but this is Kimberly from Arizona.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear her. We have a voice. She could hear us. So it was amazing. Tara and I could talk a really long time and she couldn't say a word. Yes, this is so exciting. So before I get into Kimberly, I always think that sometimes the algorithms of social media are used in a good way. And I think sometimes I'm starting to get now, I've noticed, because of Thriving Females, I get suggestions added to me of different females and look around and feel like sometimes I'm a stalker. But then I find these females and I'm like, for instance, Kimberly, I'm like, oh, dang. Well, I used to live in Arizona. She doesn't know this, but then I'm like, oh, but wait, were we friends? Did we know each other? And then I'm like, oh, wait, what did she do? This is so cool. And then I started just looking at her website. I'm like, oh, I don't want to know anymore. I'm just contacting her because it's more of a surprise to me. I don't want to read too much sometimes because it's exciting to know. And I reached out to her and I told her that we like to put the spotlight on females everywhere. And would she share her female amazing story with us? And she agreed. So welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Tell us everything about you because you've done a lot of things.
I lost it there for a minute. How is everything about me? Everything about me is great. There was a time it wasn't. So that's kind of how my story got built. So
let's hear the story.
Became or unbecame of what I was. So I'm an RN. I started my nursing career in the Army I started as a combat medic actually, and then got my RN, and found just that I was kind of a born healer. That was really where my calling was, and I think that that was really where my calling was, and I think that from over time that has manifested from healing of the soul. Tylenol and Band-Aids to healing of the soul. So that's kind of been my journey through my nursing. I've been a nurse for almost 30 years, almost 29 years.
Now, are you in the hospital or are you in a private practice?
I did everything. I started in the Army. I worked telemetry. I worked med surge. I worked stress lab, interventional radiology. I was the charge nurse on a telemetry floor for a very long time. And then after the disease of addiction came for me, I moved over into that section of medicine, the addiction medicine.
Okay, so I know that was one of the things that drew me into your website and you. So explain how addiction came into your life. Did it affect you personally?
Yes, absolutely affected me personally. I was a normal drinker up until probably the age of 40. And we call it cunning, baffling, powerful for a reason. And it became my solution to my problems, and I didn't know how to deal with what we, life terms. And I used alcohol as my escape. And I learned very quickly that I was not a drinker. And I was in, you have these pictures of people's lives and how, everything looks good from the outside. I had a good job. I was married. I had 3 kids, roof over my head, 2 cars in the garage, a great career. And it all looked really pretty, but I was epically unhappy. And I didn't, my marriage was failing. I didn't want everybody to know that I was failing at life and failing at happiness. And so I started to drink, and it became not just a solution, but my only solution. So, and then became a problem. And when alcohol or addiction comes for you, you don't see it coming. I'm a smart girl. I did not see it coming. I was a nurse for over 20 years before, this disease came into my life. And I would see people. I would see people in the hospital, and I would be in the ICU, and we would have them what we call socially intubated, and to get through the delirium tremens, the DTs of the alcoholism. And, we would get them through this. We would get them, off the obsession compulsion, the addictive part of the medication, the detox part. And I would see them again in a month, and I'm like, we got you through the hard part. And what I didn't understand was that was not the hard part. Living life on life's terms without alcohol or drugs as your solution is the hard part. And so, my story kind of goes where, I was, it all manifested over probably a year and a half, and the last 6 months being the worst of it. I got a super extreme DUI, had to report myself to the board of nursing, and it just started to swirl the toilet. And I'm going to say this, and there's going to be an incredible shock value in it, okay? Because you look at me now and you say, what? This doesn't even make sense. There's shock and value in it when I was in the rooms of AA as well. But when all my alcohol got taken away, my ex-husband's like, well, this isn't working anymore. You got a super extreme DUI, and your life is circling the toilet. And he said, okay, now we just need to stop. And he didn't, really kind of understand that wasn't going to be an option for me. I couldn't drink anymore, and I couldn't stop drinking. So I got from that super extreme DUI. He took all the alcohol away. I remember I found a bottle that I had, and I remember going into the bathroom, finished the bottle, and I remember looking in the mirror thinking, there is no possible way I can get sober. That is not an option. Getting sober is not an option. And I remember I picked up a bottle of rubbing alcohol, and I was completely plastered. And I remember looking at this bottle of rubbing alcohol as a nurse, and I'm looking at it. And it was the most sobering moment, because I looked at it and I said, how much of this can I drink and still live? Because I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live sober. And I turned up the bottle and I started to drink it. And that's the last I remember there. I ended up in the hospital, and I have a 7-inch scar on my arm, but while I was in the hospital, my IV got infected. And I went completely septic. I almost died. I was in 2 surgeries, 2.5 weeks in the hospital. And I don't remember a lot of it because I was in a delirium. I had a fever of 103.5 because of the sepsis. And I remember the doctor coming in, and she looked at me and she started telling me my lab values. And as a nurse, I looked at her and I said, I'm in renal failure. My kidneys are failing. And she said, you drank poison. You tried to kill yourself. And I get all choked up when I talk about this, because I remember looking at her and thinking, I didn't try to kill myself. I'm trying to live, and I don't know how. And I looked at her, I said, didn't try to kill myself. She says, yes, you did. You drank poison. You tried to kill yourself. Yeah, of course you're in renal failure. And I remember looking at her, and I was so incredibly broken that there was no way that I was going to be able to stand up for myself in that moment. Mm-hmm. But words came out of my mouth, and I can only say divine words from a power greater than me. And I looked at her and I said, you are not the doctor for me. Get out of my room.
Because there was no compassion. You feel there was no compassion?
None. And so when she said that to me, when she said, you try to kill yourself, I started to panic. I just looked at her and I thought, you don't understand this disease. I don't understand this disease. And if I don't find someone who does, I'm going to die. And I knew that, and I knew that in the depths of my soul, I knew it. And so I fired her, kicked her out of my room. And I just started praying. I said, God, if you're up there, or, higher power, divine. The word water will never make you bad. It is the substance. So I don't care what we call him, it, Mother Earth, the divine Allah, Buddha, the light, it doesn't really matter. It's the substance. And I just started to pray, and I said, send someone who understands this disease. I don't want to die. And I just prayed, and then all of a sudden, a man with a turban walks in my room, and he looks at me, and he has the kindest eyes I've ever seen in my whole entire life, and he says, how's your arm? And I looked down at my arm, and it was all wrapped up. It was huge. Like, I literally almost lost my arm and my leg. And I said, I still have one. And he looked at me and said, you're going to be okay. And I knew, I knew he was not talking about my arm. He walked out of the room, and shortly later, a case manager walks in my room. And here, the funny part of all of this is that I'm this big shot nurse in the Valley, right? Like, I've been a nurse for 20 years, and everybody knows me, and I'm such a big deal in my own mind, right? I am going by an alias because I don't want anyone to know my problem. I'm still hiding in the shackles of shame of this disease, right? And I'm going by an alias, and my name, it's Trish Rogers is my alias in the hospital. And so here comes this case manager. She's all lovely. She walks in my room. She goes, Trish, how are you? And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, who's Trish? And I think you're in the wrong room, because she was the only one that had smiled when she walked in my room in the 2 weeks I had been there. And she looks at me and she says, my name's Laura. I have 14 years in recovery, and you can too. And she handed me a little blue book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she printed off all these meetings in my area, and she said, "You're going to be okay. Get to a meeting." And that was the beginning of my journey, and that's kind of how it all manifested and came into life. And then I decided, as a medical professional, that if she didn't understand this disease, I didn't understand this disease, then there were a lot of other people out there that didn't understand it, and that I was going to make it my purpose-driven life to bring experience, strength, hope, knowledge, whatever, this cunning, baffling, powerful disease. I was going to try to bring some understanding, bring some empathy, bring some compassion, bring bring some level of understanding and education about it. And I was going to get to know as much as I could about it. And so, over time and, working steps in the program of recovery, I, got sober and got my head on straight. And then I just knew that this was going to be the rest of my life. Like, I knew that my life was going to be in recovery. And so I started my own company, Soul, which is showing others unconditional love in recovery. And the L is a heart, and it has a silver lining around it, because in every bad situation, there is a silver lining.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've got a couple questions that have come through Instagram, but before you continue, I do want to pop up this wonderful comment from Brian on Facebook, who said, "Love you, my friend, never stop. You're fighting for others. You are a warrior of light." And that, I know, but that comment came up when you had talked about trying to find the light. And so Brian found some wonderful way to connect with you here tonight. And thank you. But I don't want anybody to think that we are ignoring your questions, but I want Kimberly to keep going through. You may answer those questions as you keep chatting, but make sure we get to them.
Okay, so I don't see the questions because I just...
I gotcha. You can keep talking about soul recovery.
Okay, so Soul, and so it's my company is a sober life coach. It's just life coaching. Actually, I've coached people who had no drinking problem whatsoever, but it's just sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and it's sharing what I've learned over the last almost 7 years in recovery about life, and just the enlightenment of, I think that we walk in darkness, and a lot of us just, we have to hit rock bottom to understand to wake up, really, and to understand that, we're given this one life and it's a gift. Unwrap it and enjoy it and get in the game, right? It's get off the sidelines, get in the game, take risks, be vulnerable with your heart, be vulnerable with your experience and with your compassion. And so it's just been this journey. So I do interventions, I do sober life coaching, sober companionship, which is about like kind of transporting somebody from one level of care to another, or I've flown out to another state, stayed with someone after they've gotten out of detox, and helped them through that whole. It was actually during COVID, so they didn't want to stay into a recovery center, and so I went out there and helped them kind of develop a mind, body, spirit program of recovery. Got them on a spiritual path of whatever that looks like for them. Got them on a emotional path of like enlightenment and getting in tune with what resonates with you and what kind of message. Why are you here? Right? We all have this seed. I mean, if you look outside, there's nothing that does not have a seed within it, right? That it to be planted, be watered, and fed properly so that it will grow and bear fruit for others. We are no different. We have a seed, this God-given gift inside of us that we are supposed to share. And once we find out what it is, it's the real gift is giving it away. And so that's kind of, been the journey. But that's what I'm teaching them in that emotional state, to find out why you're here. What is it that you're passionate about? Because it's going to be effortless. Whatever you're here for is going to be something you're completely passionate about, and it's going to be effortless. I read a quote once. It's you lack nothing. Use what I gave you, and it says God. And so that's he's already given it to you. You already possess it. Okay. And so then I get them on the whole the body part, the mind, body, spirit. The body part is putting good food in your body, treating your body, properly, exercise, and just, doing good things, self-care things that's just to take care of yourself. And so I had already, launched myself on that journey. And so like, okay, well, let me help you. Let me see, how I can get you on the path of mind, body, spirit as well.
So one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I think is important, is when there is no compassion, I think so many people judge people for different addictions that sometimes they can't help it. It's not like, it's so easy, like for me or something, to say, well, why can't you stop? But it's not just doing it. It's something that's allowing them to do it, that there's something that's bothering them. There's an emotion that they're trying to hide. I don't think anybody has an addiction just because, I think and that's what people don't understand. And it's not something that drugs, alcohol, any kind of addiction. It's not just something we can yell at somebody and go, you need to stop. It's not as easy as people think. And that I still think today people agree, will say, well, I don't understand why they don't stop. But it's hard because they're using their addiction to, I feel, always hide something or make themselves feel better or, drowned in sorrow, different things. And it's so sad to watch.
Well, again, you can't selectively numb. Like, it's not a problem, right? It's never my problem drinking until it was a problem born from my solution, right? It was my solution, and it worked for a while, and then it was a problem born from my solution, and then it became my biggest problem. And I think Buddha says it best. He said, "Those who judge will never completely understand, and those that completely understand will never judge." And I remember being that judge, saying, why can't you just, you got to do the hard part. Why are you back? And I didn't understand that cunning baffling powerful. I didn't understand that it was life on life terms that we were trying to live. And I also, understand that you can't selectively numb, okay? You can't numb pain, depression, sorrow, heartbreak without numbing joy, love, gratitude. You can't selectively numb. So when we numb these things that we don't want to feel, right, we also numb joy and the love and the compassion and the gratitude. And we're constantly, I want to feel this, but I don't want to feel this. And, so it's this battle.
And don't you feel like, I know you were saying you have this facade, you're an RN, you have a family, you have a husband, you have a house, you have a car, you have a successful job. And I feel like a lot of people, it's almost even more damaging. They try so hard to hide everything. Wouldn't you feel like
Hold
that?
on just a second. We lost her on her phone. She's just moving locations real quick.
Oh, wait. Let's see. Uh-oh. Oh, can you invite her again?
Invite her again.
And we can't hear her on Facebook, so we got to get her back on.
Yep. And so you can have an invite come in from the phone.
Sometimes Wi-Fi.
Let's see. Sissy, somebody's also loving your hair, Sarah.
That's my sister.
Oh my goodness. It is just a night for technology. Kimberly, see if I can do it again. Otherwise, we'll just
hang on.
All right, we're going to do one more. All right, check your phone. See if that comes through for you. All right. Did it come on up on your phone? It's unable to join. Auntie, you're getting lots of fun compliments on your hair.
Well, while we're waiting, we're doing hair.
Let's see. Everybody.
It's not coming back up. Do we need to go back? Oh, there she is.
Yay!
I don't know, the phone just went completely dead.
Okay, no, that's okay. We're glad you're back on because we can't hear you on the regular one, so this is perfect. But I was going back to, don't you think that some of the hardest part too, and I'm sure you felt this, is like living two different lives, like putting on that persona, that wears you down.
Absolutely. You're constantly putting on this facade of like who you are and like this happy face or this, I think for me, it was like, why I have all of this. Why am I so unhappy? Like, why this should be the life, right? Like, I was in a loveless marriage that I shouldn't. I was married 20 years and I cannot remember one good, solid year of marriage, but I stayed in it because I made this commitment and because I didn't want everybody to know I was failing, that this wasn't working. And I'm just like, since then, I will say, I've fallen on my face 1,000 times and I'm like, most people don't know what they think of themselves, far less what they think of me. So I'm good. Like, but you may fall 1,000 times. I just get back up.
So there we go. One of the questions that we got on Instagram was about how everything affected your family, and what that looked like. Do you mind diving into that?
I would love to say, it was a year and a half and nobody remembers anything.
They just kind of tucked that year and a half away.
But I will say, and I'm not going to focus on like the negative part of the whole journey because honestly, it had to happen. My children grew up in the rooms of AA, and I'm going to get a little choked up here, but my son had point in the divorce where he was struggling a little bit, and he said, "Mom, can I go to a meeting with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." It was like, I never wished that struggle on him or anybody in our family, like any of my children, but he knew the solution. And knew where to go. He had grown up in the room, so he knew how mom got well. And he's all my kids are so sensitive and passionate about struggling with anything, but struggling with addiction. I remember I was with the director of nursing over the recovery center in Mesa, and we were getting the casita. There was all these little casitas for the patients and the clients, and we were getting it ready. I brought a whole bunch of pictures from my old house for furniture, which would get the casita ready to put clients in it, because we didn't have them in over the weekend, and time to go out and furnish the place and do whatever. And so my boss had come and gotten, picked up and struck all the furniture, and my son was unloading and got to the recovery center. And we get there, and the detox of the behavioral health technician comes out, and he looks at me and he says, "Miss Kimberly, what are we going to do with the dog?" And I looked at him and I said, "What? I'm sorry, what dog?" He says, "The client showed up with a dog, and she's homeless. So she's getting admitted. She's detoxing off of fentanyl, and at this point, she's so out of it, and she has nobody to come pick up her dog. She shows up with her dog, and this happened because we are addicts and alcoholics, and our lives are unmanageable, right? And so she shows up with this dog, and I said, okay, well, I can call him to school. I'm like going through all these things in my head, and my son at this time, he's maybe 12, 13 maybe, and he says, "We're taking the dog." And I said, "Well, what?" He says, "Mom, she needs a chance to get well. We're going to take the dog so she can get well."
Aww.
And I was just like, I can't take the dog. And so I took the dog home. My kids took the dog. They asked about her every single day. How is she? I would take the dog to work with me, and she could get to see the dog, and then take it back home. And we care for the dog, and that's how that went. But it's just like, she needs an opportunity to get well, and we're doing this. We're taking the dog.
Oh, can I bring up pictures of your children up on our Facebook and YouTube? And so take us through. I'm sorry, on Instagram you can't see the beautiful family, but take us through who all these folks are here.
Okay, so in the girl, that's Bree. That's my daughter. She's almost 12. In the middle, that's Alex, who is now, by the way, he's 15 years old and he's 6'5". That's the one that said we're taking the dog. In the red shirt, that's Ian. And that's my oldest. He's 17. And he's an amazing kid too. Just really a sweet kid. He's on the spectrum. He's autistic, but he's high functioning. So he's just really a black and white thinker. He's an interesting kid. But those are my children. Those are my pride and joy. My only regret is I'm just baby. But
I think every mother just went, "Oh yes, I totally agree."
No, I was like, oh, let me take notes.
I'm sleeping. I think sleeping like.
So I'm sure your kids, and so did they all go to the Al? Did you say the Al-Anon program? They went.
So they haven't attended Al-Anon. They grew up in the rooms just because, of necessity. Honestly, the house that I got sober in Queen Creek, Arizona, is an actual home, and so it's all the rooms. We have different meetings, and so you'll have your Al-Anon, you have your AA meetings. There's I think you have some CODA meetings there. Sex Addicts Anonymous, they have there. They also have the CA meetings, NA meetings, and then, but the backyard is fenced in with a child lock at the top of the gate with a playground, and then there's a room in the back where they can watch movies. And so they just made it easy to bring their kids when you had to, you needed to go to the meeting. And so I would take the kids with me. And Alex, my middle one, he would almost always sit next to me in the meetings and listen and pay attention. And I think he's my biggest empath. Out of all three of them, but they're all very, very sweet and in tune kids. But in a meeting, and those who are not familiar, when someone meets a milestone, whether it's 24 hours, 30 days, 6 months, a year, they get a chip. And the chip gets passed around the room, and everybody takes the chip and prays for, everyone in and out of the room, but mostly the person that got the chip for their sobriety, right? And for their happiness. And I remember we're in a meeting, and someone tried to reach over my son to hand me the chip, and he's like, and he grabbed the chip and he prayed, and he knows what he's praying for. He's praying for the sober mom, the sober dad, the sober happy life.
Yeah, you have to put some good juju in that.
Mm-hmm.
So now your soul recovery is that you have, or your soul addiction recovery, is it a place that you go, or do you work from your home and go to people? How does that work?
No, so I was at my home, and they contact me through my website, through my 1-800 number, or 1-866 number. And I don't know if you can post it on the screen, but it's on my website, and it's they contact. I get a lot of contact through social media, honestly. That's how I've made a lot of my contacts through the rooms. I get referrals through the rooms for interventions and for sober companions and sober life coaching. I also have my day job where I work at. It's kind of confusing because my company's called Soul Recovery. I work for a company called Soul Surgery, and I want to say the director and things like that title sounds way inflated. but I'm there midday, Monday through Thursday. I work at Soul Surgery, and so my boss and I joke around. I said, it's kind of like soul, like your soul, here's my soul. But it's a great recovery. That I do a lot of that. So I will refer my clients to Soul Surgery if they need inpatient treatment. So anyone who is addicted to their drug alcohol or benzos, that requires a medical detox. And so we have a medical detox center there, and as well as a residential treatment center, partial housing, what we call PHP level of care, and then IOP. And so that's my day job, but then my company separate. And so I reserve my weekends and days off to work my company.
So I have a couple questions, Kimberly. Are we still on Facebook?
We are. You froze a little bit. This is just the night.
Like, percolate. I'm like, what is happening? I don't see you guys at all on there. So what was I going to ask you? Oh, yep. Says I'm off. Do you feel that, do some people relate better to you that, because, a lot of people always think it's those people that don't have it together, they're the ones that are going to be the addicts, but then there's those people sometimes that they do have it all together.
In reality. But then they go down
the path that drugs or alcohol. So
sometimes you relate to some people's better than others because they're like, oh, I had a job too. I had a house. I had a family. I had a life. Do some people go, oh, I connect to you greatly because of that?
Yeah, and I think the key in that is meeting people where they're at, right? So I think there's people that say, yes, I absolutely can. I have nurses that come to me all the time. Yeah, they have
struggled with addiction, whether it be, and that's a very easy profession to get involved in drugs and have a problem. But, I think there's people that connect to your story and what you've been through. However, there's a level of just understanding, I see you.
I've been there too. You are not alone. We are in this together. Like, what? Your rock bottom is my rock bottom. Your drug of choice might not be my drug of choice. Your drug of choice might not be my drug of choice. I know. However, I know you. I see me in you. Like, it doesn't. I see me. It doesn't. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. Just identifying your light in somebody else, or finding your darkness in someone else, right? And you can see it. And once you connect with it, you're like, okay, yeah, they get me. I get you. And that's how it works in the rooms of recovery. It's and I'm not saying that everyone has to work a 12-step program. I did. It worked for me. I've seen it work for so many. But even not struggling with the disease of addiction, I mean, people struggle all day long. So if you can identify with their struggle and identify with their pain, you can meet them where they're at.
So do you deal with people, not just alcohol, do you do addiction with drugs and other things as well? Do you help them?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So another question that I was thinking of is that because like you said, when you were in the nursing and you're like, you were just here, we had you recovering, how could you do this? Do you feel like you learned a lot about judging?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think we all do that. I mean, I feel like I'm a compassionate person, but there's sometimes I tend to go, well, what? But I try to be compassionate more, but I think it's human nature. We judge first, then we have to control ourselves and find the compassion. Don't you believe that?
Oh, absolutely. Because if I'm looking for a reason to find fault in you, or and Brian Mache, the one who posted that comment, he shared this definition of kindness with me, and it said kindness. Now, it's showing, loaning someone your strength instead of reminding them of their weakness.
Oh,
and
that's good.
Uh-huh.
Oh, we might have to put that on. That's good.
And that's what that's all about, loaning someone your strength. And when you learn that, judgment, me separating from connection, right? The human condition is to be connected, respected, and loved. That's all what we're all looking for. We're all looking for connection, respect, and love. And that's what we're here for, And somehow, in the mix of things, somewhere, we somehow learn that you have to earn love, that there is love, that somehow love's earned, and that just existing isn't enough. And I don't know who decided that, but I've never seen more pain and more hurt than I have with people trying to earn love. And not just being accepted where they are and who they are. And so the judgment is us separating us from our true connection with people and not really seeing their struggles. And it's sad because, we all do it and everyone does it. There's a great book out there written by Gabby Bernstein. It's called Judgment Detox. And she talks about her own judgment and her own struggle with it. And every day we do it, but then, how do we separate ourselves from it? I think that the disease of addiction, it right-sized me. I didn't get on my knees willingly. I was compelled to them, trust me. And when I did, I was like, okay, maybe I need to I don't want to be judged. I don't like the way that feels. I didn't like the way it felt when I was in the hospital, and she's telling me that I tried to kill myself, and she kind of flippantly, she flips her hair and says, fine, and she leaves my room like she was glad to be fired and not have to deal with it. And I just thought to myself, okay, I can own some of that too. Like I've done that. And so how do I not do it anymore?
Kimberly, sometimes you always hear that saying that, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes you have a bunch of crap that happens. You're like, I don't get why this is happening. But when you came out on the good side and you look back, do you think it was kind of, you hate that you had to go through it, but kind of something you needed for you to happen?
I am so grateful for it. I used to sit in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they would say, I'm a grateful alcoholic. And I think to myself, I was in this, crap show of what was going on in my life. And I'm thinking, what the heck are you grateful for? Like, this is horrible. And today I am so grateful I went through that experience. I am stronger, but softer. I'm just a better human being. There's a doctor at the Betty Ford Clinic. He wasn't an addict or alcoholic, but he treated Betty Ford, and he said that he loved the disease of addiction because it was the only disease you could suffer from, that in a program of recovery, you were exponentially a better person than you ever were than prior to acquiring the disease. You couldn't say it about heart disease. You couldn't say it about diabetes. You couldn't say it about cancer, that someone's exponentially better after having, the disease. But in a program of recovery and addiction, you are. And I'm so grateful. I would not change one thing.
You found
I went through it a little sooner, maybe.
You found the better version of you.
Absolutely.
Speaking of strength, what are some things that you're doing? I've got a fun other picture that I'd love to share if we're open to it.
I am a competitive weightlifter, a bodybuilder.
So we can pop this picture up here for our Facebook and YouTube viewers.
So wait, did you do this before or after recovery?
After recovery.
So this is a good motivation for you then. That's awesome. I love that.
On Instagram, she's looking amazing.
Yeah.
Here. I mean, you're looking amazing here as well, but this picture, it's exciting.
I competed in an amateur bodybuilding OCB Masters, which is 40 and above, age 40 and above, in the bodybuilding bikini division. And so I took first place in Masters in 2019, and I'm going to compete again in February. So
was that quite an accomplishment considering everything that you had been through?
Absolutely. And it was funny because when I say the journey of mind, body, spirit, body came last. I needed to get my spirituality. I was spiritually bankrupt. I was emotionally bankrupt, and I was physically bankrupt. And so, that portion came last. And but when I started to go to the gym and work out, and I got my workout girls, my sweat sisters, I call them, and we out, and I started to really transform my body, just like I had transformed my soul and I had transformed my mind. I started to transform my body. And I had a girlfriend who had competed, and she had competed in the figure division, which was kind of set bigger than the bikini division. She says, you could compete. And I had to block her off. I'm like, snarky comment. Like, there was no way I'm going to eat like weight, and I'm not going to do all that. And then as I kind of, started working out, and I started seeing the transformations, and I said, you know what? I'm going to commit to me. I'm going to do this. And I did it. And I remember going to the competition, and I said to my trainer, my girlfriend, and I said, I'm scared. I want to win. And I came to win, right? Like, and I want to win. And I was scared. And my girlfriend looks and she goes, you already won. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, you are of the 1% who, hit the gym, did the work, did the diet, showed up. And she says, you've already won. She goes, you are the 1% right now. Even if you don't walk away with first place, you are in the 1%. And just go out there and have fun. And so that's what I did. I went out there and I just had a good time, and I took first place.
That's amazing. That is so good. Let's talk about Kimberly, I saw Heather come up. How long have you been sober?
God willing, my date of freedom is October 17th, 2015. So God willing, I will be sober 7 years, October 17th. So right now, 6 years and some change.
Awesome. And you feel better than ever.
I feel better than I did in my 20s, and I joke around with my friends. They're like, "Are you going to compete again?" I'm going to make 50, look like 20.
I love that.
So, as we're kind of coming closer to the end, we had a question that popped up really early that I've been wanting to save. But for somebody that's going through something like this right now, what would you recommend for them? What would you say to them?
God woke you up this morning, and that means that He has not given up on you. And so don't give up on yourself, and find help. Go to a meeting, because they are going to love you until you can learn to love yourself, and they understand exactly what you're going through. And I mean exactly. You walk in that room, and it was like I walked into the rooms, and I was so broken, and I sat down, and it was unconditional love around the room, and people laughing and sharing their experience. And it was I felt like that was the only place I felt normal. It was the only place I felt like I could just be me in the greatest sense of me. So I say, go to a meeting. I say, reach out to someone who this disease, there is not a family that has not been touched by it.
Oh, I agree.
It doesn't exist. If you think that there isn't. There is not someone else. You cannot find someone who can't say, "Oh, my cousin, my sister, my neighbor, my this. Yeah, they struggled with this or this disease, or addicted to porn, addicted to gambling, addicted whatever. Insert the illness, whatever it is, but it's our core solution. And so find someone who's struggling and they want to share their experience and help with you. They do. They can't wait to. People who have this enlightenment, people who have this gift of sobriety, this gift of recovery, want to share. They cannot wait to give it to you.
So, Kimberly, what would you say to somebody that maybe wants to reach? Why would somebody at home right now want to reach out to you? Like if they were listening to you and wanted to talk to you.
And if you mean somebody who's struggling, or just
let's say they don't want to go to an AA meeting, but they want to talk. Would it be okay for to tell them to contact you? And how could so you could talk
my business, but I have to give it away right? So I have to do the triangle is unity, recovery, service. So you have to be of service. There's a pledge of responsibility in the room to say that I want at the end of AA to always be ready for me. So I have to then reach back and help the next person in line.
Because anybody that might be listening tonight may be like, oh, I don't think I'm an addict, or I don't think this, but then they might want to talk to you personally, and then you might have to say, it's like that. You need to go to a meeting. Sometimes people need that off the air, a personal touch. Like I want to have a conversation privately, so somebody could reach out to you.
Absolutely. And it's okay, have you done this? Have you ever done this? It is not normal to, have bottles. It is not normal. I mean, all these little things, you may be a heavy drinker, but you may be an alcoholic, or you may be an addict, or you might be a recreational user. But, here's some questions to ponder. And is your life unmanageable? When you drink booze, do you break out in handcuffs, or are you getting arrested? Are you having trouble in your relationships because of this substance or this this addiction? Is it making your life unmanageable? You might have a problem. You might be an alcoholic addict.
And in people learning to admit that is the hardest part.
And, we call it like a low bottom drunk or a high bottom drunk or a low bottom addict or a high bottom addict. I was a low bottom, I almost lost my life. But for those people that, I've heard it before and I forget who said it now off the top of my head, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes. Average man learns from his own, and a stupid man already has all the answers. And I may not be wise all the time, but I'm not stupid anymore. And so, you just kind of like be willing and open to say, okay, there's some things in my life that are making me question whether, I have a problem. And so let me listen to, what someone else has to say.
You've had some major quotes tonight that made
I
me
know. I've been
like
trying
this.
to type some of them out.
But that's what I did when I like.
Yeah, but they just like roll off, and you're just like dropping it.
I can see Tara's face, and I'm going, "Dang, okay, that was a good one." That hit. So. Oh, this has been so much fun, Kimberly, meeting you. And as I said, when I contacted you, why I started Thriving Females is in the hopes to talk to females of all ages. You don't have to do great things. You can be average, above average, whatever. But we love being able to talk to females everywhere, all over the world. We've gotten to talk to a couple around in different countries. But my goal in it was to put a spotlight on you for things that you've done, or gosh, tonight inspiring us with all your quotes for sure. But I just feel like I hear it later. Tara hears it. People watch the videos later in the bus lines or something, and they get so inspired, or they're like, that was so good to, make sure that person had their chance to say certain things. And I just really hope that by talking to different females, we can inspire each other. We can learn new knowledge, learn new quotes that will help us through life. But I think females everywhere, we can always learn things. And I think tonight we put a huge spotlight on you, and you've done some amazing things that I think so many females out there can relate to you. And hopefully, if there's somebody out there that they can learn from this story, that they can help somebody else. And it always reminds us of judging. That's for sure. No judgment.
And I love that thriving female. When I saw you come into my inbox, my DM, and it's this thriving female, and I said, I had just in this. There are no coincidences in life. There's a great book out there called "The 5 People You Meet in Heaven," and Mitch Albom quotes, and I'll quote him out of the book. And he's such an eloquent writer, but he says there are no random acts, there are no coincidences. All lives are connected. You can no more separate one life from another than you can a breeze from the wind. And it was just such a beautiful quote. Like, it was just like, okay, we can't separate. There's no random acts. And so when I saw you come into my inbox, I had just had a conversation with my girlfriend, and I said, you know what? I said, I've spent so much of my life surviving. I'm ready to thrive. Like, I don't want to survive anymore. I want to thrive.
Another moment that I were like, shh. See, it was meant to be. And I think we all thrive in our own way. I really do. We just, like, we had 2 twins. They're actually friends of ours, and they finished up their freshman year, and they thrived as freshmen in high school, and they shared their story. And it was just different reasons. People don't think that other people thrive. And it's so fun to just put the spotlight, and Tara and I enjoy it so much. Every time we get done with a conversation with somebody, we're like, whew, that one was good. That was really good. And we don't try to know we love it when neither of us know a lot about that person, because then we're like, oh, that was so good to meet her. So yeah, definitely, we loved having you on there. If you know anybody else, any other females that deserve the spotlight too, send them our way. We love meeting people.
Yes.
And
awesome. I know a lot of thriving women out there.
Well, girl, you just send them our way. Tara has us so we can go all over the world. Sometimes we have sound, sometimes we don't. But I mean, we don't try to be fancy as we try to make it like we're all sitting around a table just talking and we're relatable to people. So we hope you've enjoyed your time with us, and maybe we'll gain some more followers and learn to meet more females out there and inspire people. But I've loved having you on tonight.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you. It was amazing.
And it's okay if anybody wants to contact you.
Oh, Sarah, we lost your sound there for a second. I'm sorry.
It's okay if anybody wants to contact you when we post the video. If anybody has any,
reach out to me. Yes.
Okay, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, it was so nice, and I hope everybody else enjoyed this show, and we will be getting some more interviews lined up for the rest of August. Thank you again, Kimberly, for being here.
Thank you. See you later.
Go slay it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.